Most people wait until the new year to make any major improvements to their lifestyle. At some point, you've probably heard that voice in your head telling you, okay, tomorrow I'm finally gonna start doing that thing, that habit, whatever you've been meaning to do all this time. But then tomorrow comes and then you tell yourself, okay, I'll start Monday. It's at the start of a new week. That's probably better. Just start things fresh. But then Monday comes and you tell yourself, okay, I'll start next month at the start of a brand new month. That'll be perfect. But then next month comes and you tell yourself, okay, I'll start at the new year, the start of next year. You get the idea. You know deep down it makes no difference whether it's today, tomorrow, the 1st of January. Every day is just another day. It'll always feel like now is not the right time, or that first I need to finish this other commitment and then I can finally do that thing I've been meaning to do. If you keep waiting, then the right time's never gonna come. So in this video, we'll be getting a 3-month head start on this process for reinventing our lifestyle so that by the time January 1st comes around, we'll already have the ball rolling and be miles ahead on our journey. Before we dive into it, hit subscribe right now to see more videos like this one. All right, so I often encourage people to set goals and create kind of a vision for their ideal future lifestyle, career, etc. But in this case, I would actually not recommend starting with this because it can actually be quite overwhelming depending on where you're at in life. A lot of people struggle to see results because they kind of get stuck in this macro planning phase. So instead, we're going to start by taking action and remove some of the guesswork about what's the optimal steps or actions for you to take. So we'll start with the fundamental things that will objectively benefit just about everyone, no matter what your individual life situation is like. Now, depending on your starting point, you may or may not already have some of these things dialed in, but I imagine that if you clicked on this video, you probably have room for improvement in at least one of these areas. Wake up early. This is probably the single most impactful thing I've done for my personal development. Simply the act of waking up a couple hours earlier before you have to go to work or school will open up so much time for you to do other things in life. I remember when I first transitioned to being more of a morning person, it felt like I had lived an entire separate day before 9 a.m. Now, in my experience, the most difficult part about making this habit of waking up early sustainable is not actually the act of waking up early, but going to sleep early the night before, because that's really what determines how easy it'll be for you to wake up in the morning and continue to do that each and every day. Now, an added benefit of shifting to this more natural sleep rhythm where we wake up early around sunrise and go to sleep relatively early is that, in my experience, most bad habits tend to occur at those later hours at night. And so if we can get into the habit of simply being asleep by that time, then it's pretty likely that those bad habits will naturally start to disappear. All right, so a few quick actionable steps to get on this good sleep schedule. First, set an ideal wake up time anywhere between, let's say, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., depending on what your daily commitments are like. Set an ideal bedtime 7 to 9 hours before that wake up time. Then follow a basic night routine. I like the 3-2-1 rule. So 3 hours before your bedtime, stop eating. 2 hours before, stop drinking. 1 hour before, stop looking at screens. Also, make sure to keep your bedroom dark, cool, and quiet, obviously. Then as for a basic morning routine, the key things that I like to hit on every day are going outside, getting some natural sunlight, getting some exercise, whether that be just a brief walk or a full workout, hydrating with some electrolytes, and finally not checking my phone or any devices for the first hour of the day. All right, step 2 is to tidy your environment. A cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind, which can lead to a cluttered life. Tidying up your surroundings clears distractions and can create a kind of calming environment that frees up both physical and mental space for focus and growth. Cleaning up your room, your workspace, your entire home can definitely be a bit of a challenge. It's something I've always struggled with personally, but it's generally way more straightforward than thinking about your career or your overall direction in life. I really think it's a great place to start to get some quick wins and start building momentum for doing other things. Now, as for some specific steps we can take, I like to follow Marie Kondo's advice.
Hi, I'm Marie Kondo.
It's what's worked best for me in the past. I've also been reading her book, which has got me in this kind of minimalist tidying mindset right now. And one thing she recommends is to treat the act of tidying up your environment like one major event that you just do all at once. Maybe pick one day or one weekend to really just tidy up everything. And the reason for this is if we take the other approach that you often see, which is like clean up one thing per day, it sounds nice in theory, but what happens is that we don't see real results fast enough to get that positive reinforcement. So likely, people might clean up one thing for a few days and then kind of forget one day and just never really end up doing anything. She emphasizes the importance of discarding things and just having fewer possessions overall, which really aligns with kind of my philosophies for life and productivity and stuff. It's not necessarily about how you organize everything that you're doing, but more that you do fewer things and pick the right things to do that will make the most positive impact on your life. So same thing with your possessions. Discard things first so that you have just the things that really bring joy to your life. And she also recommends tidying by category rather than by room. So starting with all your clothes, then books, then papers, then maybe work-related items, electronics, kitchen tools, etc. And while you're doing this, I would also make sure to set up a clean, minimalist workspace dedicated just for doing more productive work. So this means no lounging here, watching YouTube, eating, etc. We want our brain to kind of associate this space with focus. Now, I encourage you to read Marie Kondo's book for more details, but in theory, assuming we've gone through the steps correctly and properly tidied our entire environment, it really shouldn't require much maintenance, maybe just 10 to 15 minutes per day, just putting things back into their dedicated spaces. So for me, I like to do this sort of towards the end of the day after I've shut off all screen devices. It's kind of a nice meditative process. Reflect on your current lifestyle. Next, I would get into the habit of capturing any thoughts about your life that arise throughout the day. So you could think about maybe some of the major areas of your life: health, career, relationships, what's going well, what's not really working, what makes you happy, what makes you stressed, anxious, unhappy. And then write these thoughts down either on a physical piece of paper or in a journal app, and really get into the habit of capturing any ideas that come to your mind, kind of clarifying them a little bit so that you can write them down. And then later we can come back to these ideas, analyze them, and use them to guide our future actions. I'll talk more about that later in the video. Health and fitness. Taking care of your health is something that will objectively improve anyone's life. It's another thing that you can kind of just mindlessly take action on without sort of overthinking it too much. Now, as for exercise, if you haven't been very consistent with working out in the past, I would focus on just making a routine that you genuinely enjoy doing. Consistency is the most important thing in these early stages rather than trying to optimize for anything. And I would definitely make sure to start small and then build momentum from there. One of the common pitfalls that you'll see, especially with people who are starting to work out maybe in the new year, is they'll tell themselves, okay, finally, I'm going to take this fitness thing seriously. And they'll just go super hard and overdo it. They'll like lift weights for an hour a day, plus run like 5 miles. And they'll do that, go crazy for like a week. And then they'll destroy their body. They'll be super sore. Then they'll skip a day and just fall off the routine entirely. It's way better to just start with small workouts, even if it's just like 15 minutes and where you're kind of pushing yourself, but not too much, and just slowly build up from there. Don't be afraid to adjust and switch up your routine if it means that you'll be more consistent in the long run. Fitness influencers will sometimes make you feel like you need to follow their specific workout plan in order to get results. And this really isn't the case. It's just so that they can kind of sell you their workout program or their app. What really matters is that you're just training hard and consistently. Now, as for nutrition, there's so many conflicting philosophies and ideas as to what the best diet is for health. And I'm not really qualified to speak on any of that. All I can really tell you is what has worked best for me, which has been more of a carnivore or animal-based diet. That's what I feel best eating. But there are a few key principles that I've seen pretty much everyone in the health and nutrition space, no matter if they're vegan or carnivore, all agree upon. And that is to, 1, avoid highly processed artificial foods, eat mainly real single ingredient foods. Also avoid things with added or processed sugars. Avoid seed oils, canola oil, vegetable oil, all that stuff. And limit alcohol consumption as much as possible, no more than 1 to 2 drinks per week. Now, of course, nutrition can go way deeper than that, but those are some fundamental things that pretty much all the experts that I've come across will agree upon. Find the bottleneck. All right, so at this point, we should have a pretty solid foundation. We've got a fairly consistent routine, a good sleep schedule, a tidy environment that's free of distractions, and good fitness habits that will give us more energy and better mental clarity. Now, without these basic fundamentals down, it'll be a little more difficult to determine the specific direction to take with your life. So take your time to dial these in. It might take you the full 3 months, but that's okay. If you start now, you'll still be miles ahead of the people who wait to start on January 1st. So assuming you've got a decent foundation down, at this point, I'd encourage you to consciously try to identify the bottleneck in your life. Look back through the thoughts that you've captured in your journal and try to identify some recurring themes. Maybe you see that you feel tired all the time and constantly have brain fog. Maybe your job is stressing you out and not really bringing you fulfillment. Maybe you find yourself knowing what you need to do, but not having the motivation in the moment to do the thing. Maybe you feel lonely, bored, or like there's some tension in your relationships. Look back through everything you've written down and try to identify which aspect of your life is holding you back the most, which area, if improved, would make everything in your life that much better. Once we identify that, we are going to lock in on that one area while maintaining the strong foundation that we built. Obviously, I can't really prescribe a specific project that I think would be best for you to focus on because it really depends on your unique life situation. But most people will have at least one area that kind of sticks out to them and is potentially holding back the rest of their life. But I'll throw out a few of the more common examples that I've seen and touch on how I might approach each situation, and maybe one of them will resonate with you. So for example, it could be your finances holding you back. And I would really only focus on this area if you don't just want to make more money for the sake of making more money, but that genuinely an extra $1,000 or $2,000 per month would significantly improve your quality of life. In this case, I would of course just recommend getting a job if you don't have one already. It's the fastest way to start making an income compared to trying to pursue some sort of side hustle or business idea. And then you can also supplement this by doing something like Uber Eats on the weekends or after work. And then I would implement pretty strict budgeting and try your best to live below your means. The saying, "a penny saved is a penny earned," is really true, and you can often cut unnecessary spending a lot faster than you can increase your income. So definitely cut out things like eating out and buying drinks. Those are probably the most common and easiest ways to start saving more money. Another example could be your health. Maybe you feel tired constantly. You have an idea of the different things you want to do in your life, but you just never have the energy to do so. Maybe you've started to actually develop some legit health issues, or you've gotten some blood work done at a doctor and they told you you're kind of in trouble. Health is often overlooked for more attractive things like making money or advancing in your career. But in the long run, neglecting your health can hold you back from making more money, progressing in your career, and just living a energized and happy life overall. I truly believe that in the vast majority of cases, problems that people experience with energy levels, physical health, or mental health conditions can be solved through simple, natural lifestyle changes such as sleep, nutrition, and exercise. And there's no need in many cases for pharmaceutical intervention. Now, another example of a bottleneck that you might need to focus on could be your relationships. So friends, family, or romantic partners. I've got multiple friends who are making a great income. They're satisfied with their career path. They're in solid shape physically and have pretty much every area of their life together and are now just missing someone to share it all with. If this is the case for you, I first off wouldn't feel afraid to admit it. In today's sort of hustle culture, it probably doesn't feel too cool to say, oh, my focus in life is to find a good romantic partner, as opposed to saying, oh, I want to, grind and make this money or something like that. But as I get older and learn from my own relationships and people who are more experienced and successful than me, I'm constantly reminded that family is really everything. Now, another example, and this is what I would probably say is the bottleneck in my life currently, and that is career. And I'm keeping this separate from finances, although of course your career is likely to be strongly linked with your financial situation. In this context, I mean career in the sense of your life's work, your purpose, how you're contributing to the world, and the fulfillment that you get from doing your work. So you might be making a solid income, you've got your basic necessities covered and a solid foundation, but you're kind of just missing that last final piece. And this is kind of the higher tier of, I guess, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that more self-actualization, purpose, career fulfillment, that type of thing. Obviously, I'm still trying to figure this out myself, and right now the vehicle for doing so is making these YouTube videos. But one of the biggest things that I try to think about is just being intentional with what I'm pursuing in life rather than living life on autopilot, because in that case, society is just gonna kind of choose your path for you. And also, one thing I think is often overlooked is people focus on the idea of a certain career, maybe the status or image that you get from that career, rather than the actual day-to-day life that you would live if you pursued that particular career, if that makes sense. But lastly, I want to hear from you. Have you done the things that I've mentioned in this video? What do you feel like is the bottleneck in your life right now? And what are your plans for finishing out the rest of this year? Let me know down in the comments. Do something today that your future self would thank you for.